Hi guys, it's Teacher Tana and welcome back to my online classroom. Today I want to tell you all about a tool that I have adapted from my physical classroom into my new online learning environment. This tool is incredible. It allows me to get engagement from students so they're able to answer questions as I'm giving them a lesson. Two, it gives them the safety of anonymity. So they don't have to put their names to their responses, and this really allows me to get authentic, real-time feedback on how well the lesson is being understood by them. And then number three, because of this great authentic information, I'm able to make real-time changes as I'm teaching them. So just incredible tool, really helpful in the physical classroom when I was doing that, and now even more helpful in the remote classroom when I don't have the privilege of walking around and checking on students individually. So the tool that I'm so excited to share with you today is called Poll Everywhere. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is click in Google, do a search for my Chrome web store, and then I'm going to go ahead and head there. I'm going to use Poll Everywhere as an extension in my Google Slides. So I'm going to go ahead and put Poll Everywhere here. And again, this is a way that I ensure students are engaging with me throughout the lesson and that I can have real-time feedback for them. So once I click in, you can see here that I'm given the option to add to Chrome, and I definitely want to do that. So you're going to have to follow a few prompts that kind of give permission and allow you to do it. And it is there. So yes, we are good to go. So now I'm just going to go and open up my Drive. And I want to go ahead and create a new Google Slides presentation. So here is my Google Slides presentation. All right, so now I have a blank slides presentation. So this is where I want to add some Poll Everywhere so I can have some students interacting with me throughout the lesson. So I'm gonna start from scratch as if I don't have one at all. If you already had one created, which you can definitely create within Poll Everywhere, you can go to just straight to Insert Activity and do it that way. But I like to make a new activity. So I'm going to do that, and then look at the different activities that you can insert into your slides presentation. These are amazing. So first of all, you can add multiple choice. So you can post a question and give multiple choice options so students can answer. This is a great way to check whether a student understood some previous lessons or examples that you've given. Word cloud actually I just used with my front range students. So my front range students are my community college students. And what I had them do for their very first exam was just write a word that came up in their heads when they thought about our first exam, like how they were feeling. And this is a few days before the exam. And the cool thing is the word bubbles actually get bigger and help you visualize how the students are really feeling. And if there are multiple options, for example, like if a few students put anxious, then that word would get bigger and bigger. So by the end of this poll question, I was able to tell, oh, the majority of my students are feeling anxious or are feeling they're not quite sure what to expect, which is typical of a first exam. But this is a really quick way to get some feedback without having to go one-to-one and saying, how do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? And of course, that can cause some anxiety. So this is a way to get that feedback in an anonymous way as well. I can also do a competition. So here they can answer questions and gain points. So that's really cool to use, especially before an exam as review. You can do true or false questions. I really like to use the open-ended questions. This is a perfect way to open up a class because you can really tap into some background knowledge for a student. So I'm going to show you how I use that one because this is the one that I use most often. You can also do rankings. So you can list a bunch of options. For example, you can list things like what activity do you want to do next? And they can rank in which order they want to do it or which activities they liked best or anything like that. There's also some really cool things you can do, clickable images where you can like drop a pin and students can click it and they can all go to the same spot. And that's really neat too if you want them to all go somewhere and learn some information. We also have question and answer. So you can have audience members submit questions and then you can the audience members, so everyone else, can up or down vote the answer or the response. So this is a really cool one as well. Not one that I've played around with, but I'm super curious to play with. Then you've got self-paced surveys, so you can ask questions before or after an event, and then you can get some feedback on how well the lesson went. This is a really good one if you are a newer teacher and you're really looking for a reflective practice. And then finally, numeric rating. So you can say, like, for example, a question could be, how fair do you think this test was? And the kids can choose on a scale of 1 to 5. So I'm going to show you the fastest way to implement this in your classroom tomorrow, and that is by using Open-Ended. So I'm going to click that one. And you can see it's creating in here. And now it says your new activity is ready. Now edit its details. So right now you can see it's completely blank. So we're going to want to edit it. So this in this unit, I just taught about motivation and memory. So my question is going to be, what is your earliest memory? Typo there, excuse me. So I have my question ready to go. What is your earliest memory? So again, we just started a memory unit. So I really want kids to access some of their background knowledge and to really start making this information personal so that they're more likely to remember it. So then if you look over at the right-hand side, you've got some responses that you can set, or some response settings. So here we have allow changing answers. I like to leave that on only because sometimes students realize they had a typo or they might want to adjust their answer in some way, and I want to give them the opportunity to do that without having any shame or confusion happening. So I usually leave that on. Here, limit responses per person. I also have that off because my classes are about 21 students. Now I will say that the polls do have a cutoff limit. It's usually about 50 responses per poll. And so even if my students were to answer twice, they could, it would only be 42, right? So they'd still have kind of a buffer of 8 responses. So I'm okay with them doing that. So this is per poll activity. So each one that I create, I have 50 possible responses for it. So keep that in mind if you're using this for an audience that's bigger than 50. Another says audience restrictions and identity. Participants will be asked for an optional name before moving on to your poll. I keep mine anonymous, and this is why. I actually discovered this activity 3 years ago when I started teaching an AP psychology class. I was looking for a way for students to ask me questions without worrying about what their peers thought about their question, any of that. And I realized with these higher end students that they actually had a really high affect. Like they really did not want to look like the lowest learner in the class or the hardest worker in the class. They just wanted it to look easy, like school was just coming to them really easily. So this, providing them this poll and letting them ask questions, allowed them to ask without shame. And the cool thing is I would keep it open and they could continue to ask the question over and over again. So they might ask the question one time and I would answer it and I would try my best. And then if I saw the question again, then I knew that whoever that person was didn't quite get it and I could try a different example. So this became really important for us on the days before exams so students can feel free to ask any question they need. So that's a setting that I keep it on, which is off. You could restrict participants, so just to people that are registered with you, that's always a possibility as well. So feel free to do something like that if you think it'll work. So how people can respond. I leave on the web and it's going to give them it's going to give them a URL to use. And I also like to use text messaging. This is because especially now, since I'm teaching fully virtual, some of my students have like a Zoom screen or a Google Meet screen open. And I don't want them to have to fiddle necessarily with opening up another tab or any of that. And so a lot of them prefer actually to have their cell phone, which most of them have with them anyway, to respond from instead of opening a new tab, et cetera, et cetera. So I like to leave mine as on, and it seems to be the fastest way for me to get responses from students. So then I can go ahead and save this question. Now there's a couple of things I can adjust, like the visual settings. I can change the color scheme, the font. I can change the instructions are up here on how students can respond. I can change how that goes. Honestly, I haven't messed with any of these, but if you have the time, feel free to do so. Mostly I haven't messed with it because I just use this as quick like in tickets and out tickets, exit tickets. So I really don't have a lot of time to like play with them and make them pretty. Maybe if I save them for multiple years, I might go in there and really like edit and really have fun with that. But for right now, this is the way to do it so that you can use it tomorrow. So you can see there are instructions on the screen. In order for this to be ready, you actually have to press insert. So it's in there, ready to go, it's inserting. And then you have to press the present. So you have to be in present mode. If you're not in present mode, you're going to see what you're seeing here, which is what is your earliest memory, and that's it. Okay, so we want to get into present mode, and once we do that, you can see the instructions pop up on the top, which is asking the student to go to pollev.com and put in my password, or they can text text my name right there and text this code in order to join. And like I said, most of my students prefer to join in this manner. So as soon as my students start responding, then their responses will just populate on here. And I love it. And this is a way, like I said, that I can get students to ask questions or share their memories without having them worry about what their peers are thinking or believing of them because of it. All right, so now we have our first question ready to go. And remember to see those instructions on all of that pop up. You want to press present. So now let me show you how to open up a question that you have created previously. So unlike myself, you might not want to be creating these like as you go, like right before the class. You may have created maybe a set of questions from earlier and you want to reuse that question. So you would just go to Poll Everywhere just like before, and this time you would insert activity. So then when you're in activities, you can see that I actually have 61 activities. So that's the number of times that I have used Poll Everywhere in my class. So I'm gonna click that one. And you can see when I started using this, I probably learned about it 15 minutes before class started, and then I was like, let me just try it, which is how I normally do things. So you can see that I've actually repeated the same question a million times, like, what questions do you have about the unit? What questions do you have about the unit? What questions do you have about the unit? Instead of me having to type that up all the time, which honestly, this one wasn't a difficult one to type up. But let's say you've created multiple choice questions and you don't want to have to redo them every time. What you could do is find them in your activities. So here's one. So again, I have here, what questions do you have about the unit? You can see the students giving their responses. I do set it as anonymous. I did set it so they can text in a question. So here they are asking questions. I can see it. Now I have a couple options and things that I can do here. So I wanted to show you how it looks like, but let me kind of go back. Let me select it. So here it is, the same one that I was just talking about. And I can click more and check it out. I can make a copy of that question. I can move the question to a folder, which is what my plan is. So I have some questions that I use for certain units. So I want to definitely move them around. And I definitely want to include more multiple choice questions and some of those competitions before test days, so on days that we review. So this is going to be great for me to organize all that stuff later. So it's amazing and it's all free, guys. And I can also decide like to move it to the trash if I don't want it. Now let's say I don't want to copy it. I already know what the students are going to, I just want to know what the students are going to respond, how they're going to respond in this particular class. Then I just click it and you can see here I can just press clear responses and it's going to keep the question in all my settings, but it's going to clear the responses, and I definitely suggest that you use that. Another cool thing about keeping the old ones before you just clear them out is that I can look at the questions that the students had about a unit. So this is a great way to end a unit in this kind of easy way for students to interact with you, really low affect, right? They're not worried about their peers are going to think or looking less than in front of each other. So you can see all the questions are on there, even some silly ones, because this was towards the end of the year and we we're getting a little silly. But you can see all their questions are on there, and then I can backwards plan. So if I know I'm starting Unit 7, I can open up Unit 7 Poll Everywhere questions, look back and see which questions pop up, and that way I can say, oh, you know what, there was actually a lot of confusion about this specific topic, so I want to add another activity, I want to add maybe another article, whatever it takes to make sure that I don't have those same questions pop up again. So it's actually a really useful reflective tool as well. All right, so again, I can edit this, so I can, if I've made a copy of it or if I've cleared the responses, I can edit everything again. I can delete it, and then when I am ready, I can go ahead and reinsert it. So I'm actually going to go back here and show you what it looks like when I clear it. So here's some responses here. I'm going to click clear response. You can see they're gone now. And then I'm going to open this up, and then I'm going to insert it. So now it's a brand new poll for my students, and they're good to go. All right, so like I said, Poll Everywhere has so many different options. I'm not going to walk through all of them, but I do want to hear how you are going to use this in your classroom. All right, everyone, I'm so excited to hear about your implementation of this tool. If you have a chance, I would love to hear all about it in my comments, so make sure to do that. And don't forget to like and subscribe because I have lots more videos and content on the way to you. All right, guys, I will see you on the internet.